Let's talk a little bit about procrastination. On October 11th, 2017, I came up with an idea. Fast forward to today. It's 2024, and I still haven't finished that project. You can go watch the video. It's extraordinarily cringy. I was gonna create a diorama display with my dioramas up top, and then I was gonna have a skirt of stone underneath. After the This Week in Diorama show, all of that had been basically canceled and quit. Then I finally decided, you know what, it's time. I got kicked out of my office so my daughter could have a room. Those shelves are still up, and actually they're holding up pretty good. They just have my daughter's artwork on them now. I did a pretty good job installing them. They have not fallen down. I am going to finish this up. I've got all the rock sculpted up. It's ready for paint. This video is not a tutorial. I don't think that I'm equipped to teach you guys how to do this. We're actually going to follow the instructions of a fellow YouTuber who also seems to have retired, Luke at Geek Gaming Scenics. I have that fire back and I want to get back to doing things. I went and actually built a custom shelf. I created a new display out in the living room where now I work from home. We're going to follow Luke's instructions, and I've tested this out a couple of times. I did it on small little rocks and it worked amazingly. It looked so good. And then a couple of other times I tried it and it came out looking like trash, which is why this is not a tutorial. I've got my pieces, they're all ready for the paint. The majority of this is gonna be relatively the same, but we have to deal with this a little bit differently because he's using plaster, it's already white. I have to paint this white. So that's what we're gonna do first. So let's get to it. We're gonna create a whitewash. I've got a big old thing of cheap apple barrel white, and then we're gonna mix in a bunch of Mod Podge as well, because I want this to strengthen and seal this all at the same time. I literally have no idea what the amounts are that I'm gonna use, so I'm just gonna pour a whole bunch. We're gonna be pretty liberal with the amounts that we're using, and I guess if I don't need it all, then I don't need it all, and I'll just use the rest of it some other time when I need a giant amount of whitewash, I guess. We're gonna throw in our white, good and thick. I don't know, I think I'm kind of doing like a 1-to-1, maybe a little bit more of the white. I don't know exactly what I'm doing. I'm getting a lot here. This is such a big project. I've never done anything quite this big.
That's what she said.
Now we're gonna thin this a little bit. I've got distilled water. I don't usually use distilled water, but I've had this sitting around for a while. I don't think it's necessary to use distilled, but like I said, I have it. I believe I've got this thinned down enough. And if I need to thicken this up, I'm certain I'm gonna need multiple coats. This is outside of the realm of what Luke's video was, so this part is, I'm just making it up as I go. I've never done a whitewash before. I figured I might as well use gravity to my advantage since all this paint is gonna wind up heading down. Might as well have it go down into those crevices. You guys get the point. We're covering the whole thing in white. That's basically what a whitewash is. Same thing as a blackwash. So we finished this first one. Went really well, actually. Something I would highly recommend. Get yourself some rubber gloves. I've got like a box of 100 from Costco. Go get them because they're very worth it. This is definitely gonna need a second coat. I can see a little bit of pink coming through, but we're gonna hit this thing with the fan. I'm gonna get this second piece started. You guys obviously don't need to see that, but I'm gonna get that painted up. We're gonna get everything dried, and then we'll move on to the next step. It's been 24 hours. I've let this dry. I put about 3 coats. There's still a couple of areas that might have a little bit of pink tone, but I've run out of patience. In Luke's video, he used just 3 colors. I'm doing mine a little bit differently, just a little, but I am using really cheap acrylic paints. I'm using, for the most part, it's the apple barrel stuff. The color that I'm adding a English ivy green. I like having a little bit of green in the rock. I'm using for my yellowish, it's called yellow ochre, whatever that is. It's from Folk Art. And then I've got Folk Art Coffee Bean. I would have liked that this brown would be just a little bit darker, but you know, that's what I had. And then I'm using a burnt orange, which is also slightly different from what Luke was using. So hopefully this still turns out okay. Don't wear your favorite clothes. I got paint all over my sleeve, which was kind of lame, but it is what it is. I have already mixed up my colors, and these are really thin. I threw just a little bit of dish soap in. I don't know if I even put enough to actually make any kind of difference, but whatever, it is what it is. I don't know if I have enough either, so I don't know. I think we're gonna do yellow first, then we're gonna do our green, and then our orangish, and then we'll do the brown. Then we gotta let that dry and come back. So let's get to it. When Luke did this, he recommended covering about 2/3. When he was doing his, I really felt like he didn't leave near as much white. I'm gonna try and leave a lot of white, but we're just gonna let this kind of do its thing. Randomly putting this in places. Now I really don't know if I've got this thinned too thin, not thin enough. We'll really see, because the idea is supposed to be that the material will soak up a lot of, well, one, the moisture, but also the coloring, and that should make it somewhat less subtle. I wonder if I've got mine just a hair thin, overly thin, but you know, I'd rather it be too thin and then have to come back later and thicken it up than way too thick and then I have to kind of start over. He also, I think, recommended let it dry after each color, which I hate because, you know, patience levels. I added a couple more drips of yellow to this, and we'll just see if that gives us a little bit extra depth. This is why I said this is not a tutorial. I don't know that I'm teaching you guys anything. This is just kind of a trial and error. It's holding the color just a little more, but I wonder if I could have even gone a hair darker. My initial impression, I probably need more color. This one for sure needs more color. In Luke's video, he talked about like pigment levels in the paints that he was using, which is way more advanced knowledge than I have. There's a certain level of this really cheap paint probably doesn't have near as much paint pigment, hence the reason why it's considerably cheaper, which is why you probably can't thin it near as thin. But I think you're also tending to want to use like oils or inks. I don't know. Now I'm just kind of talking and saying words. All right, I don't want to cover that too much more because otherwise we're getting too much white covered, and I still have 3 other colors to do. I think we've let this dry long enough. My patience level is not high. So we're gonna do the green next. I think I'm gonna leave this still pretty diluted, just because I don't want the green to be way overpowered. And I don't think I'm gonna put a ton of it on. We'll just have to see how this goes. We'll test on maybe a side spot that connects. Yeah, I think that's okay. I just finished baking some bread, and oh my gosh, it smells so incredible in here. I kind of wish that you guys could be here just to experience it, because it is so phenomenal smelling in here. It's just so good. But you're not, so too bad. I can see why he said, you know, leave like a third white, and then you see Luke's video and it's like, there's not a third left. Stuff goes on really quick and covers. And now we let it dry again. 2 colors down, 2 more to go. Let's move on to our, what is this, burnt umber? Burnt orange, whatever they call that. We're gonna give it another stir. I am washing my brush in between each color. I think this is okay. This is the biggest contrast color. Also, if you're wondering, after each coat, I'm taking some paper towels and wiping down my drop cloth just to kind of sop up a little bit of the excess, because otherwise that's just an accident waiting to happen. All right, so we put a lot on that side. I don't want to put too much more. Otherwise we're gonna really lose our yellow that we added. Let's see, maybe a little right there. Got to make sure we get up top a little bit. There, check the insides. Make sure my back sides are getting decent coverage. We're ready for the last accent color, and this is that brown. Hopefully, this will round all of this out, and it's gonna look nice, right? That's what we're all hoping for. I really want to make sure I leave plenty of the white. All right, let's see, where else do we need? Throw a little bit in there. How we doing? Maybe put a little bit down in here. I think we still have a decent amount of the white. Try and cover up some of the like obvious streaking. Although some of that'll kind of turn out kind of cool looking. I'm hoping. Maybe put a little more up at the top here. It's important to let each coat dry, is what I'm seeing. It seems like that should be pretty obvious. We're learning together. Or maybe you guys aren't learning anything. Maybe you already knew about this and you've done it 1,000 times. And maybe I'm the only one that this is somewhat experimental for. So that's a good opportunity. Throw your thoughts in the comments. Have you tried this technique? Are you going to if you've never done it before? I suppose maybe you'll want to wait until the end to see if the results are any good. Time to let this dry. We're gonna let it dry probably a full 24 hours. I actually may throw some Mod Podge, water it down considerably to kind of create a barrier, so that way then the black wash doesn't start dissolving my paint and making them mix together. I think I'm probably gonna do that. So for those purposes, this is gonna probably take a couple of days, because I want a full day for this to dry, and then I want probably a full day for that PVA watered down mix to be able to dry. So this is gonna take a little while longer. I can assure you, well actually I can't assure you. I hope I can assure you, once we get to that black wash, this ugly just disaster, it's gonna look good. It's gonna look good. I hope it's gonna look good. All right, so let's get to waiting, I guess. It's been a few days and we're back. This is fully dried, and I actually sprayed it down with a water diluted Mod Podge mix. Got myself a sprayer. Didn't figure that you guys needed to see that per se. I did 2 coats, and I'm really hoping that that actually did what I'm looking for it to do. And now we're ready for the black wash. I already mixed it up. I really don't know if I've got the right mix or not. I've got some Mod Podge in here. I've got a little bit of dish soap, and then I've got my black acrylic paint and a bunch of distilled water. The last 1 or 2 times I did this, my black wash was way too dark and it kind of covered everything. So let's hope that I got this right this time. Funny story, I forgot to hit record, but you can see so far what I've started, it's looking really good. It's looking so good. So my level of dilutedness seems to be roughly perfect. I may still come back with a little bit more just to darken it up a little bit, but I might not too, because this is looking quite good so far. And I would hate to kind of ruin it by messing with it more. So we'll just have to see what it's gonna look like after it's all dry. Only thing I maybe would have done different so far is I might have done a little less green. It's not terrible, it's just maybe I shouldn't have put quite so much of the green on because it's a little overpowering, but that'll just be the nature of this particular rock formation, is there's gonna be a lot of green. But so far, this is looking so good. I'm super excited for this. And I can sense that you guys are too. You're excited on my behalf. And why wouldn't you be, right? You've been sitting through, I don't know, this is probably like 20, 30 minutes of video at this point. Why wouldn't you be excited? If you stuck around this long, I appreciate that. I even considered turning this into 2 videos. But then I thought, nah, I don't want to have to edit 2 videos. So it's gonna be 1. You're welcome, internet. After I get my base on, I'm gonna go through and kind of stipple like this, if you can see that, to pick up any excess that might just be pooling on there, because you really don't want just pools of black sitting on there. Otherwise, that's just gonna kind of ruin that effect. So take that into consideration if you're gonna try this out. And I'm gonna continue getting this black wash on. I'm super happy with how this turned out. I think I'm gonna hit this with just a little bit of a white dry brush just to bring out some of the little accents. I'm just gonna do that off camera. You don't need to see that. Make sure you go check out Luke's channel. I've got a link in the description below so you can watch the full tutorial video if you wanna do it exactly the way that he does it. I have a feeling I'm gonna use this technique from now on whenever I need to do rocks. The nuance that you get from this, at just the right angle, this really looks like real rock. Am I back? That's a good question to ask. Am I back doing YouTube? Kinda. It's not like I'm trying to, grow this channel to become like some, I don't know, YouTube sensation or whatever, like I was. I am really just trying to chill out. And if I see something cool, or if I build something that I think is cool, I'm gonna share it with you guys. And so if you're looking for that kind of thing, hit that subscribe button. For sure, if you watch this video, you're all the way at the end, hit the like button. That definitely helps. Share it out. I can finally say this project is done. We have a tendency of procrastinating. It took me 7 years to do a simple diorama display. And I think the lesson here is we let so many things get in the way of doing something, being productive, doing the things that we know we should do. There's excuse after excuse. This is too difficult. I've got something else I want to do. Maybe I want to play video games or go out and have drinks or whatever. But we put things aside, especially important things. And I think it's important for us to remember we need to do those important things. And this isn't intended to be some life lesson, but it is something that maybe to think about. Go into the closet and pull out those diorama projects that you've been sitting on for a year, 2 years, or 7 years, and start working on them again. And more importantly, maybe those things that you've stuffed away in the closet or under the bed in your life that you maybe should put a little more effort into. Friendships, marriage, your children, your work. Maybe stop procrastinating. Maybe it's an apology that you need to, give to someone. Maybe it's forgiveness that you need to give to somebody. Maybe it's going back to church. Maybe it's putting more effort into work. Maybe it's you need to put more effort into getting a different job. Maybe you're in some comfortable job that you know really isn't utilizing your skills. Procrastination is something that keeps us from succeeding. It keeps us from flourishing. While this is a silly example, and I'm super happy with how this turned out, it can be used as a bigger lesson, I think. If we can procrastinate for 7 years on the small things, imagine how long we can procrastinate on things that are actually important. Take a moment and just think about those projects that you have waiting for you in the closet, under the bed, whatever. Go take a crack at them. That way then you can take procrastination, turn it from a project sitting and waiting, and turn it into done.